Hey my ebonies, come along today as we do this hat. It is easy beginner friendly. Let's go. Hello my ebonies. Welcome back to my channel and thank you for tuning in for your daily essentials. First of all, I want to apologize if the lighting is a little off. Today has been one heck of a day, but I was determined to get the tutorial out to you guys because I haven't done a tutorial in a minute. So as I said in the entrance, we're going to be doing a slouchy beanie slash hat. This is beginner friendly and it is awesome. I made one in blue, I've made one in like a purple, so today I'm using one in a more neutral universal color. So if you're interested in making one, let's follow along. So let's get into our ingredients. Today I will be using this Caron Jumbo yarn, and this is 100% acrylic. This is in the color, oh my goodness, I don't even know what that says, guys. It's in the color Dilutation, I want to say, but it's a nice ombre color that's going to go with anything. You also want to get a tape measure. Now the tape measure is optional. If you are making this hat for someone, you're going to need their head measurements, but if you're making it for you, you can easily just use your own, measure your own head. We're going to need a pair of scissors. You're going to need a darning needle for sewing, and we are going to be using a 5.0mm hook. I don't know the letters of what this is. That's the thing for me. I don't know a lot of the letters, okay? So to get started, we will be making the band that goes around our head. And what you want to do, the day is, have you ever woke up, guys, and felt like, yeah, they're going to be one of those days when little irritating things happen? Well, I feel like that's what I'm going through at this moment. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to be making a slip knot. And like I said, I apologize for the lighting. Let me zoom in a little bit more for you guys. Okay, so we're going to make a slip knot. And we are going to make a chain. Now, when you make this chain depends on how thick you want your ribbing that's going around your head. So if you take a measurement of your head and your head, let's say, is a 10, then you want to do 9 inches. So if your head is 10 inches, you want to do 9 inches because you're going to get a nice snug fit, because the rib stitch, it stretches. And you don't want it to be loose and falling off of your head. So remember to go down to subtract 1 inch so you can get a nice tight snug fit without giving yourself a headache. So I am going to chain 15 because I always like my ribs to be thick. I don't know why, I just like it like that. So I'm going to chain 15, but you chain however chain you want for your ribbing. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right. So I've chained 15 for my my ribbon. Let me bring you guys back a little bit because that's a little bit too close. All right, that's a little better. So now what we're going to do is, oops, guys are shaky. You're going to chain one more, and that is going to be your turning chain. Now for my beginners, you need to always chain a turning chain so your work won't be lopsided or it won't be decreasing. All right, so the stitch that we're going to be using is a double crochet stitch. I find double crochet stitches work really great with hats. So we're going to go around one, and we're going to be going into the back loops only. So if you turn your project to the side, you're going to see that it makes a V. So you can do this side or you can do that side, doesn't matter. You're going to be going into the back loops, which is one loop back here, instead of going through two loops under here. Make sure you guys see that. Instead of going through two loops under here, you're going to be going through the back loop, which is the V. So I'm sorry if you can't see this, but you turn it to the side, you're going to see a V, and you're going to go in the back of the V. If I can get in there, okay. This is probably going to wind up being a blooper tutorial. There we go. You're going to go into the V, and we're just going to make a double crochet all the way. Now everybody wants to drive down the street today. You're going to go all the way down to the end of your project. If you make a mistake and go into both of them, don't fret. It's not a big deal. Just make sure that you go the next one, kind of go into the first one. And also if you are, I'm sorry, the back one. And also if you are so used to, you may be so used to doing two that you really do go ahead and make a mistake and go into the both of them. It's not a big deal. So don't fret. All right, so once you get all the way to the end, come back. Oh my goodness, I don't even understand why I'm struggling so bad today. Once you get to the end, come back and I will show you what to do next. Okay, we are coming up on the end of our project, and what you're going to do from now on is the exact same thing. Now we got to the end, you're going to do the exact same thing, which is, and when you get to the end, it's okay, like when you get right here where you've kind of started, it is okay to go into both of them if you can't get into the second one, because I know that when we tie this little part right here of your slip knot, it is really hard to kind of get in there. So you can literally just go through both like I do. And please, like I've said it before, do not make your stitches too tight, because you have to go back in there. You can see the difficulties I'm having getting in there, because I kind of made this one kind of tight. So just be careful. Oh my goodness, this tutorial is not going the way I wanted to today, but guys, bear with me. We will get it together. So all right, so we've done our first row, and this is what it should look like. So when you get to your second row and rows beyond that, you're just going to breeze through it. You're going to make a chain, turn your work, and you're going to see the V's a lot more visible now, okay, if you could see them. And you're just going to continue to go into the back loops only. Now another thing that you want to do when you're getting ready to start your new row and you want to go into the back loops, You're not going to go into this one. You're going to go into this one, and you're also going to make sure, I'm sorry, not this one. You're going to go into this one here, because if you go into this one, you're going to be kind of increasing. So if you go into kind of like the second one, you're going to be able to keep your ribbing straight. Okay. And then you also, once you get down to some rows, you want to make sure that you are measuring your rows by, measuring your rows to make sure that they're not slanted or even, because even though I've been crocheting for a long time, I still get to the point where my ribbing is a little wonky. Okay, so you just want to keep going until you get to the length that you want. So you just double crocheting in the back loops only all the way down until you get to the length of the ribbing that you need. And you're just going to chain one, turn your work, and continue to do it. So go ahead and continue to do this until you get the length that you want, and I will be back to show you. Get some more yarn here. I will be back to show you exactly what the step that we're going to do from that point on to turn your hat into a slouchy beanie. Now remember, for our ribbing right here, this is what's going around our head. So we are growing this we're growing this horizontally. Is horizontal? Side to side? I always got that mixed up in school. So, okay. So we're growing our project. This is our headband. So we are growing it this way. Okay. Even if you turn it to the side, so it doesn't matter, but we're working on width, not length. There you go. We are working on width. So you're going to keep going until this fits comfortably around your head. And when we get to that point, come on back and I'm going to show you what to do next. All right, guys, I wanted to come back and demonstrate the end parts that I forgot to talk about. So when you get to the end, and I'm going to show you what I mean. When you get to the end, you're going to have to go into this little stitch back here that's hiding so that you won't indirectly decrease your project. Okay, so I'm almost to the end here, and I'm going right here, and then you may go into here thinking that your project is done, but it is not. So if you can tell, I'm gonna lay it down and see if you guys can tell that you're gonna start decreasing if you do not go here in this little guy that hides right there in the corner. So make sure, and this is a part where you can go into both of them if you wish, because it's really hard to see and you can miss it for my beginners. So you want to go into that. That is your very last stitch. You want to go into that one and there. You've got it. It's going to be even. Okay, if you do not go into these little guys that hide on the side, your work is going to be slanted, or you're going to start to decrease and everything's going to be warped, and that's not what you want for your hat. So I had to come on and let you guys know that. So this is what I've gotten so far. You can see the ridges. This is what your work should be looking like. You can see the ridges already, and you can, this yarn, I'm finding when it's worked up, it's also kind of stretchy within itself, so I might be taking this down probably 2 inches, but as you can see, this ribbing gives it a stretch. So if you've got yarn that is not so stretchy, the rib stretch is a stretchy stitch, but if it does stretch, you're going to get a lot of stretch out of it. So I might be going down, as I mentioned, 1 inch or 2. Also, when I was telling you to make sure that you measure your work to make sure that your project is even, this is what I meant. So what you want to do is you want to fold it in half like so, and then you want to make sure that there's not a really big difference from this end to that end. If it's a slight difference, because mine has a little slight difference, that's not a big deal, because you can pull it, and when we get ready to stitch it up, it's still going to be okay and it's going to be even. But what you don't want, if your work is real off, like this, like if your work is off this much and it's not, and you can't get the ends nowhere near each other, then you need to unravel some rows and go back and make sure that you get this in. Or if it's too long, if one end is too long than the other, then you want to do some decrease. It's okay if it's a little wavy, because no one's going to be able to tell, but you don't want a big significant difference. Okay, so I'm going to continue growing my ribbing and the beginning of my hat that goes around my head, and I will be back. But I wanted to stop in and let you guys know, give you those little tips. See you soon. All right, guys, back, and as you can see right here, my my band went a little wonky. So it happens to the best of us, and that's just, nature of the beast. So I'm going to stretch it a little bit, and when I stretch it, that wonkiness kind of disappears. So at this point, I know I'm going to use this side for my head and probably this side to put the hat on, but nevertheless, we're going to digress. So once you're done, we are going to sew our ends together here. So do not cast off. And I like to use single crochet when I stitch up my ends, because it's not as tight. I've tried the slip stitch and it turned out to be a little too tight for me. So I like to single crochet, and we're going to go into the first. You're going to go through. There we are. So we are going to join. We're going to go in, pull it up, and go through both loops. I'm sorry, guys, I just had a freaking brain fart right there. I'm so off today, but I gotta get this tutorial out because I love you guys. I love you guys. I wouldn't have a channel if it wasn't for my ebony. So bear with me. My tutorials are gonna get better and better and better. I promise you that. I've got some things in the working that's gonna make it better. All right, so we're coming up to the end here, and what you want to do, you still do not want to cast off. This hat is made in kind of like all in one motion. Getting some more yarn here. So you want to go all the way out to the end here. If I can get it. All right. And so now the top of the kind of not the top, but the brim that's going around our forehead is completely closed. Okay, so now what we want to do is that we're going to do single crochets around this rim, because you want to have something to go into when we finish the hat. So because there's really nothing here that you can go into, we're going to do a foundation so that you can go into the hat. So let me adjust here. All right, let me adjust here. Take you guys out some. That's as far as it's gonna go. Okay, so first thing you're gonna do is we're just going to find a space. Now this part is a little bit tricky because you've got to kind of just go through here and find spaces to put your single crochet. Okay, what I am doing at this part, I'm just going into the gaps. You can even go into like in between here, but you kind of want to be careful that you're not putting an increase. Oops, about to do a double. Not ready for that yet, but you want to make sure that you're not doing putting increases in, like I mentioned before. So just stretch your yarn open a little bit and just eyeball it and find equal amounts of spaces where you can put the single crochet at, so that you have this foundation. Now you see this hole here, I don't know if you guys really can see it, it's kind of on the large side, so I really can go ahead and put another one in there, because you can't. Why do I keep going back to doubles, guys? Okay, so I can put two in here to kind of even it out, because like I said before, you want this to be even. So just keep going all the way around until you have your single crochets, because we're making a much even foundation for our hat. So keep going around and I will meet you back here so we can progress with our slouchy beanie hat. All right, guys, we are at the end here of doing our single crochets all the way around, and here is our seam where we sewed it up. So we're just going to put one there, and then when you get to this part up in here, we're going to do a slip stitch. Okay, so now we're going to do the body of the hat, and that is simply very, very easy to do, because we're going to be doing rows. So we're going to do 10 rows of just regular double crochet stitch, and then when you get to your 11th row, we're going to start decreasing. Okay, and so you're going to do 10 rows of decreasing. Now it depends on how long you want your slouchy hat. Now if you don't want your slouchy hat to be that long, then you can do 5 and 5. Okay, so basically I want mine kind of the same length as the previous one, so I'm going to do 5 rows of regular, and I'm going to do 5 rows of decreases. And when you do your decreases, which don't worry, I'm going to show you, you're going to want to do you want the decreases to kind of go every 5th stitch, decrease until you go back around. So you're going to see that decrease happen very soon, and it's going to be a quick decrease. So depending on how long you want your hat, make sure that you establish those decreases. Okay, so once we get here where we've done our slip stitch, the next thing you want to do is we're going to chain 2. That does not count as a decrease, and you want to go into this stitch right here, which is the very next stitch from the hook, and we're just going to do double crochets all the way around. So this is our first row. This is row 1, and do double crochets all the way around the hat, either 5 rows or 10 rows. You do 5 rows, your hat is going to be kind of like medium to medium, small to medium, I want to say, where your slouch is like, you know, it's good and slouchy, but it's not like the deep slouch. If you do 10 rows and up, then you're going to have a dramatically slouchy hat. Okay, so do your 5 or your 10 rows of just regular double crochets going around, and once we pause it, and then once you're done, come back. I'm sorry that I keep getting too close to the camera. I crochet kind of fast, so it kind of I kind of be forgetting that you guys are with me when I'm talking. So keep going. Do either your 5 or your 10 rows of just regular double crochet. When you get to here, remember to chain 2, slip stitch, chain 2, and keep going. Now I'm going to show you, I'm going to do 1 row, and when I get to here, I'm going to show you where you're going to do your slip stitch in order for your chains, or for it to look seamless and you don't have like a gap or a hole, if that make any sense. So you know your chain 2 can be closed. Okay, so pause the video, do 1 row, come back, and I will show you how to wear the slip stitch in your chain here. All right, my ebonies, I'm coming up on the end of my hat. So when you get to that part, when you're back here and you need to do your slip stitch, you want to do your slip stitch at the top of the top of the second chain. Okay, so I'm going to put my last stitch here. All right, and then instead of slip stitching down here or slip stitching, let me hold up so you guys can see. So instead of slip stitching down here, or instead of slip stitching right here in this hole where you've got the chain 2 space, you want to go up and you want to slip stitch right in here. So that's going to close the gap. So I'm going to do my slip stitch up here at the top, and then once you do your slip stitch, you see it's kind of uniform. There's no extra space that it would be if you went down here. Okay, so again, we're going to chain 2, and so this will be my second row. So go ahead, I just wanted to come in and show you that another little gem. So go ahead, and then once you do your 5 rows, and once you get to your 5 rows, come back, and then we'll start on our decreasing. All right, so here is my 5 rows, and 5 rows worked up like really fast, and I'm really loving my colors that's coming out. This hat is like gonna be so awesome. So what we're gonna do now, once you've done your 5 rows or your 10 rows, however rows you want for your hat to be, you know, slouchy in it, we're gonna start with our decrease rows. All right, so usually when we were doing your rows and you start with your double crochet, let me bring you guys in closer. So when you started with your double crochets doing it regular, we went into this stitch right here, which is right next to our chain 2. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you 2 ways of doing your decreases. Now the first way to do a decrease is like kind of like my favorite, because I get to control it. And the second one is very easy, simple decrease. They both do the same thing, so it's up to you. So the first decrease that I do is I'm going to start with I'm going to prepare to do a double crochet. So I'm going to go into this stitch here, and I'm going to come in. I'm going to pull it through 2. I'm going to leave 2 on my hook, and then I'm going to wrap around again. I'm going to go into the next chain, or the next stitch, I'm sorry. I'm going to have 4 on my hook. I'm going to pull through all my loops. Okay, so now I've just done 2 double crochet stitches together. Okay, when I say that I can control this one, it's because you can use this stitch and kind of go throughout your project, and you're going to have that decrease. The first one that you do, the second one that you can do is you just skip the stitch. Okay, so instead of doing that double crochet, instead of going into this one, I go into this one and I just do a regular double crochet. You can only do that skip, that first stitch, at the beginning, because if you do any skips, down your stitches, then you're gonna have a different texture and different look to your project. So if you're going to do the skip one, then you just take it, and instead of going in here, you're going to go in here, and each time you come back to the beginning, you're just going to move over, and then that's going to do a decrease as well, if that makes sense. So but I'm going to do my my double crochet 2 together at the beginning. Okay, so let me do that again, because just to be clear. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to prepare for a double, and I'm going to leave 2 on my hook. I'm going to turn it again, go through the next stitch. Okay, so here is where I have to modify it, because I said you can pull through all all your loops, which you can, but here's also another one where I'm going to pull through the first, and I'm going to have these 3 on loops on my hook, and I'm going to pull through all 3. So that's even another way to do it, and it comes out the same. And so this is row 1, and we're just going to keep, I'm sorry, I had to pull some more yarn here. We're just going to keep double crocheting. So this right here counts as 1 stitch now. The double crochet 2 together, that's count as 1 stitch. That's 1, 2, and we got 3, 4, 5, and we can do another decrease right here, which is a half double crochet decrease. Okay, second one there, and now we've got another decrease. Let me bring you guys out so I won't be so in your face. All right, and so now we're just gonna go and we're going to continue doing double crochets all the way around. Okay, now at this point in the beginning of the video I said that you could do 5 rows of the decrease, but depending on how long you want your hat, because this is my hat is going to have it's going to be slouchy, but it's not going to be super slouchy like my other 2 hats. Okay, I think exactly what I'm going to do is I'm going to change and I'm going to do 10 rows of decreases with my 2 decreases right kind of like right next to each other, because yarn is splitting, because when we're done with our hat and we get to sew it with our darning needle, I'm gonna give you guys a preview what I'm talking about. We're going to be sewing the hat. We've got to get this hole right here as small as possible, because we're going to take our darning needle and we are going to sew our hat like this. Okay, and this is where the slouch comes in. Okay, so with that being said, you want to go ahead and keep going, and you can, and what I just did when I scrunched my hat up like this can really, and you have your this can measure the slouchiness of your hat, so you could tell that I've got a little bit of way to go, and like 5 rows may not have been enough for it to be on my head, so I'm gonna do 10, because you do want that slouchiness. Now it can be, my hat, like I said before 100 times in this tutorial, my hat will not have a heavy slouch to it like my other ones, and I'm going to show you, but this is going to have like a small to medium slouch, which is kind of like what I want. But if you want it to be more slouchy, then you're going to keep going until that that hole is kind of like really small. Okay, so keep up with that, and we're going to come back when I have 10 rows of decreases for my hat, and then we're going to move on from there. So pause the video, come back when you have your 10 rows of your decreases, and then we're going to go from there. Okay, my ebonies, so this is my hat done. This is how long I want it to be. Like I said, my hat is not going to have a huge slouch to it, but I'm going to turn it this way. So as you can tell, you want this shape right here, this shape where it's going in, and you want it to look kind of smooth when you do your decreases on both sides. So what I did was, I think I did about I added I'm sorry, tongue tie, can't, Lord, who learned me how to talk sometime. Okay, let me start over, rewind. Okay, so here is my hat done, and as you can tell, you want the sides to kind of like go in a smooth it's like an oval shape, because it's going to get thinner at the top. I did about, I want to say 15 to 20 rows, because that's my business. And what I did was I did some random double crochet 2 together in like some random spots, because I wanted my decrease to go in a lot sooner, because I know how many rows I wanted. So that's another tip. you can do every 5 rows. You can just take it in some random spots. When you do your half double crochet in random spots, you're not going to be able to tell exactly where you did it at, if that makes any sense. Sometimes when you have a formula and you do it, you know, every 5 to 10, you kind of can see. But anyway, I digress. So we're not going to cast off. Now, this is how big my hole is. We're going to sew this hole together so that I have my slouch. All right, so we're going to take a long piece of thread. Now, not thread, yarn. Now, don't make it too long, because it will get tangled, and that's not what we want. So we're going to cut it off here, and I did about, I want to say, a yard or 2, and we're going to pull it through our loop right here. And as I'm pulling, I'm going to explain there's 2 ways to do this. Now, I have seen some people do it like a drawstring method, where they are weaving the yarn in and out here so that it's kind of like a drawstring, and they just pull it tight and it comes together. That is also a great way to do it, as long as you make sure that when you're done and you pull it, you do something to secure it so your hat doesn't come loose or get loose at the top right here. This method is what we're going to do, and I am rubbing my yarn between my fingers to bring it to a nice point so I can get it through my darning needle easily. And I've done this trick before at my last tutorial on my beanie with a flower, and this just kind of works for me. And especially if you have some fluffy yarn, which is kind of like what this is, you might need to get a spray bottle and wet your fingers so you won't be sitting up here rolling yarn forevermore. Put it in here. Yeah, there we go. Let's get it in there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to thread our darning needle, and do not tie a knot at the base here. Do not tie a knot here, because you will have a hard time trying to get the darning needle through your project. So what you want to do is just the old-fashioned way of getting it, you know, tying the 2 ends here. Okay, and then you want to get this on this end as close as possible. So I'm just going to make a knot here. Sometimes, guys, it's so awkward to be trying to shoot on, you know, on camera. And so please be patient, you know, with me. I've heard people that been shooting on camera for a long time that is very awkward, getting the angles and staying in the angles. So that is what I'm dealing with at the moment. But nevertheless, I'm going to persevere, because I love my ebonies, and I know somebody out there is going to really enjoy this tutorial. So what we're about to do now is we're going to take our darning needle, and you're going to randomly just sew until you get your hole to be gathered like this. Okay, so you just want to go like I've inserted it here where I tied my knot at. So I'm just going to go across here and pull it. This point, when you sewing this together, there's no rhyme and there's no reason of which way you want to do it, but as you can see, when I was saying make sure that you kind of don't make it too long, because this is kind of what happens, and you just go in different directions to sew it. I'm going to go across this way because I already went that way. And pull it together. So it's going to get that bunched up, gathered look to it. And that is what you are going for. Take your time with this step right here, because you don't need to be in a rush. You don't need to hurry up. Just take your time, go through it, make sure your yarn is successfully going through it nice and smoothly. Trust me, when you start doing more of these, you're going to be flying through them, and you're not going to need a tutorial. You're just going to be able to do it by memory. That's how I am with beanies and hats, and I just do them by memory now. Like beforehand, yeah, your virtual auntie needed a tutorial for everything. Now I'm just at the point, I'm just been doing these for so long that and I love doing them, so now I just do it from memory, add my own little touch on it. That's it. This is like a unisex hat, slouchy hat. Well, all of them really are. But I think because this is short, I can see a guy wearing this. All right, so what you want to do is make sure you go through and check if you've gotten all your sides. And I'm going to show you, like right here, that's a little, it's a gap right here. So that's a potential problem for where my hat can start to unravel. So make sure you have all of those. So you want to go through and double and triple check. Okay. I always say make sure you have, when you're pulling out your yarn to sew up your hat, make sure you have too much instead of not enough. That's always a thing. And I'm just double checking a lot of my corners here to make sure that I got them kind of together. Because the last thing you want is to have a gap, and then potentially it starts through wear and tear, it starts to open up. So I'm just taking my time and checking and see, here's one here. And because the way this this yarn is, and because not necessarily the yarn, but because of the way we are sewing the gathered part right here, they will be very hard to see out in the open. So you very much have to take your time, go in there and keep checking. Okay. And then sometimes this happens if you sew it and you have too much. Sometimes this happens where your yarn will get caught. So I'm going to pull it that way, and then you just take one string and you can pull it on one side, and it's gonna, the loop is gonna even out if it gets caught. So don't fuss with it, don't get irritated or cut it off, just take one side of your yarn and pull it, and then it's going to even itself out. I think I got them all. This is, okay, that's just a big space right here. That's not an opening. Okay, I want to definitely get this right here. Even though it doesn't really look like an opening, it's still a gap, so to speak. So I want to get that as well. Pull it this way. Okay. And I think that I am good with it. I'm going to leave my yarn, because if I'm not good and I put it on my head and I find some other gaps, I can go back and stitch them up. So I'm going to cast off. Make sure I tie this part right here. I don't do a lot of weaving in my ends, guys. I just really prefer to tie several knots and cut them. I don't even understand why I don't like weaving in ends. Probably because I got commitment issues in the back of my mind, but I do not like weaving in ends, so this is what I do. Even on my wearables, I just go ahead and make myself knots. And then I go ahead and clip it. I even get to the point where I don't clip it too close to the knot, because of course it can unravel. But I even at some point can use a bit of fabric glue to get it. Oh my goodness, it's like everyone wants to drive down the street today. Yesterday it was like super quiet. So I guess I might start doing my tutorial, guys, at night. Because I don't know. So I'm going to weave this in right here. This is another way I weave it in. I just take it and make little knots down the side of it as a secondary security precaution, because you do not want any of your products to be unraveling, especially if you give it to a client and it is unraveled. Okay, so I'm going to cut this here, and then I'm going to stretch this so that end can disappear. And then we're going to turn our hat inside out, and there you have it. Here is our little slouchy beanie. So when you put it on your head, there, that's how you get the slouch. Okay, and if you come around the band and you want to add more detail to the band, you can cast on, which I think I'm going to do later, or you can leave it as it is. You can cast on and do a single crochet around this perimeter to clean it up, because sometimes this is what's known as a rough edge. Okay, or you can leave it rustic, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to later on just go ahead and take a single crochet around, give it a lot more definition to it. But here's the hat. I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it wasn't too much of a misleading or distress to you. Like I said, today was straight off day for me, but I wanted to push through it and persevere through it. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't and you give it a thumbs down, leave it in a comment and let me know what you didn't like, what I can improve on, and what would you like for me to crochet in the future. If you are a beginner, any questions, and also hit that subscribe button to help me make my channel grow so I can keep bringing you these great tutorials. So until then, love yourself, because nobody else is obligated to do so. Bye, my ebonies.